I'm really pleased now to be able to introduce our first speaker, who is Florence Humbert from France. She's a feminist activist and expert in prostitution. She's going to tell us about the situation in France. Welcome, Florence. Can you tell us about the current situation with gender identity ideology in France and what issues are urgent at the moment?
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. I will explain what happened on the 7th of March, because we had a feminist march to the 8th of March, but it is unfortunately a Monday this year. So we several feminist organizations organized a march on the 7th of March, and perhaps we can have the pictures right now. And on this picture, you can see some abolitionist feminists who have occupy a statue in the middle of the Republic Place in Paris with banderoles condemning pimping and prostitution, and mentioning that Jackie and Michel, a very well-known pornograph site in France, has been convicted of pimping for, since several months, and is a very big victory for the feminism in France that they have been convicted for pimping and condemned. And other banderoles are speaking about Balance ton port, that's Me Too in France, and other banderoles about prostitution you can see on the other pictures too. Perhaps you can show the other pictures. So, and that's the attack of the people with another banderole, with a banderole against Islamophobia, and it is the flag of the anti-fascists. And the feminists on the statue were attacked by so-called feminists, anti-fascist feminists, who absolutely can't afford that prostitution is not empowerment for women. So there are very aggressive fighting for the right to be prostitutes and against the abolitionism. So under these young people with the anti-fascism flag and those so-called feminists against Islamophobia were a lot of men. A lot of men that you couldn't identify as men at the first view. And a lot of people who are profiting from pimping, but don't say that because pimping is forbidden in France. So they appeared on the place and they combated, they tried to force the feminists on the statue to come down and to destroy their banderoles and attacked them so with violence. Some people tried to protect the feminists who were on the statues and were beaten and thrown with eggs. They threw a lot of eggs on the women in on the place of the Republic, and they burned their banderole at the end. Of course, they succeeded in taking them the banderole and burned them. So several media have reported on this issue, but unfortunately, the media, most of the media say, feminists are combating each other. And of course, it's a fatal destiny for our fight. It's very damaging us. So the most well-known feminist who was attacked is Marguerite Stern. Marguerite Stern was by the Femen for a long time, and she has organized this protest here. I don't know, I mean, she's not to see on this, But when you go on Facebook or on Twitter to Margaret Stern, you can have a lot of pictures. And the one you can see on the right side is Betty Lashgar. Ibtissam Betty is a Moroccan feminist who is pendling between France and Morocco, and is very active against prostitution and against violence against women too. And, the main purpose they have is to protect the right of men to sexually abuse and rape young women. They have no paroles against violence against women, only paroles against the fact that prostitution is not allowed in France today. So the first attacked banderole was the slogan, "Long live the female sex." It was the first who was twin with eggs. It is not something with, it has nothing to do with prostitution or something like that. So we don't know if the attackers were really aware about what they attacked, in fact. Perhaps it's a very brutal violence against feminists. They absolutely don't know what they attacked, in fact. Margaret Stern was interviewed by Jelly Bindle in English in The Critic, thecritic.co.uk. Perhaps you can see the article, I can give it in the chat after. So it was an event where we had to struggle against trans activists. Not only trans activists, but a lot of. The other struggle is the fact that the Ministry of Health is targeting teenagers with a homepage, On s'exprime, who is mentioning the gender dysphoria as something teenagers can suffer from, and explaining gender dysphoria is on why the teenagers are uncomfortable with it. It is only mentioning transition. So transition feels to discrimination, and discrimination leads to transition. It is a circular explanation. I wonder if any teenager would understand something to this explanation. But the fact is, in France, it is not allowed for teenagers to access hormone therapy, and they are trafficked underground. Hormone medicines are trafficked underground, but it's not allowed and it's not paid. There is a very big struggle at the moment to let the physicians prescribe hormone therapy to adults, because when they prescribe it, it is paid by the public health insurance. That means every French worker, every French employer has to pay for the transition. But they don't want, the trans activists don't want that transition is a medical issue, because it was illegally psychiatrized when they were they had to be in a psychotherapy within 2 years, and it has been removed from the rules. So they have not to prove anything before asking for an hormone therapy or surgery, because it's not an illness. That's their assessment all the time. They say it's not an illness, it's not an illness, but the health insurance has to pay for it. So they have, the physicians have to prescribe them. So there is a committee of some psychologists or psychiatrists who manage the demands. And one of the members of this committee is Elisabeth Roudinesco, a long-time fighter for the right to same-sex marriage, for an example. And she's the author of an essay, it is Oneself as a King, about excesses of identity policy. It has been published this year, 2021. And she has been defined and criticized in the web because she has said there is nowadays an epidemic of transgenderism in France. She said something like that in an interview, and there was a storm of attack against her because she said something like that. So most of the lesbian organizations were asked if she accepted biological men who were becoming female. Most of them refused. Some of them accepted. And it was 2010, on the years, in the beginning of the 21st century. And 2010, some lesbian organizations were led by men, by so-called trans women. And some of them refused and were threatened, and of course they have to manage to share the state funding and the sponsoring. It is not double sponsoring because there is double so much organization for lesbian. Some lesbian who didn't want to accept men in their organization had to grant another organization. So when there are double organization, they can't receive so much money as when there is only one organization. So it is a financial attack. So now, I don't know if I have some minutes more. I would like to let you see how we counterattack, because some young feminists in France have found each other. It is, I'm very grateful to Joe, because it is because of the WHRC that we found to each other. And we have begun to think about a way, I hope it will work, yes, to think about a way to educate other feminists, because some feminists absolutely don't understand the struggle with trans activists, and to educate organization and perhaps to go in schools with this short webinars. So that's the first one who has, 3 of them are online on YouTube since today. It's the very beginning now. And I will let you see the pictures and try to comment in English, but it is in French, of course. So Nous Femmes is we women, and it's the name we have given to us. The story of the trans activists is based on the 2 movements, the movement for the rights for gays and the feminist movement. And they were working together, but separated. And in the gay movement, you have the queer and LGBT, the gays, lesbians, and in the feminist movement, the lesbians and the heterosexual women. Some of the women, lesbians, went in mixed gay and lesbian movement, some of them only in lesbian movement, and some of them in the feminist movement. So the transsexuals appeared to be gay men who wanted to become women and played with the role models. LGBT and queer were integrative, so they fight, they are integrative, they fight for recognition as well as hetero, in the heteronormativity. And the men, the heterosexual men, were allied or absolutely nothing. They were not integrated in the movement. Heterosexual men were not integrated in the movement, but now they are, because they become lesbian trans lesbian. So on the end of the video is that all persons who criticize the trans activism are TERFs, but that's something you know very well. And on this panel, banderole, you can see girls with dicks and boys with vulva, and transphobes with beaten traces that they are victims. And it was a slogan who was written on the statue on the Place, Republic Place in Paris after the events of the 7th of March. They wrote on the statue, "Beat a trans, beat a TERF, save a trans." It was the slogan they wrote about it. Okay, thank you.